What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here at CheeseheadTV. It's time for some Packers talk. Thanks to everyone who checked out Packer Transplants last night. Couldn't believe the response. Always great to be back with Corey and chatting Packers, but not a lot of interaction with the audience last night, so I'm sure you guys got questions. The Packers haven't released an injury report yet today, late Thursday afternoon. However, Josh Jones still the only non-participant, so that obviously bodes well. There's no doubt about that. This is the healthiest the Packers have been going into an opening week game in a long, long time. Hey, what's up, everybody? Omar, Stefano, how you doing? I like the big-time fans who saw me cut it earlier. That's what I like to hear, man. Just keeping you guys on your toes. I want you to know what's up. Georgia, thumbs up. Nice to see you all. Oh, Michael, there was no need to do that. Hello from Germany. Hello, what's up? Mein Kühlschrank ist kaputt. It's the only German I know. My refrigerator is broken, I think that means. I'm not sure. So happy the Vive videos are back. So am I, Dominic. I'm happy to be here. Can we just get one? No, not yet, Matt. Transplants was awesome. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like I said, it's been a long time. It was great to be back in the fold. Great to be talking to Banky and all of his craziness. It is a unique perspective on everything the Packers do. Colin, the NFL is back tonight. Can't wait. Who you guys got? Eagles? Falcons? The Falcons, actually, the line moved pretty significantly in favor of the Falcons earlier today. So I'm interested to see what happens tonight. South Dakota, Jay, what's up, man? And hey, Frank in Atlanta. How you doing, man? Thanks a lot for chiming in, tuning in. Brussels. Look, we got Brussels. We got Germany. People all over the globe coming in and saying hello. It's always good to see you guys. Georgia has the Falcons tonight. All right, Georgia. I don't think that's a surprise because of your name. Tell me some good news, buddy. Well, Jay, the best news for Packers fans is probably the health of the team. You can't deny that this has been a long time since the Packers went into a game opener, a season opener, and were this healthy. It's kind of unheard of, especially in the McCarthy's tenure. It's good, though. I mean, the Packers, they got to get out of the gate fast. They have two games against division opponents to start the year. That's tough sledding right out of the gate. You've got to have those games. They matter big time down the stretch when you're obviously trying to win the division, but also trying to maneuver for position just in general for the playoffs. It's a big opener. And the first 2 weeks are huge. There's no doubt about that. What week does Brett Good show up? That's a good question, Peter. I tend to think Brian Gutekunst sure seems to be trying to push the older kind of generation off of here, but not just by age, but also by team players that have been with the team X number of years or made up the past roster. This is one of the biggest purges kind of / overturns that we've seen in a while. I guess if push came to shove and the long snapping's horrible, then maybe Good gets a call. But, Good, Evans, some of these older veterans that were on the squad last year that did help them, there's no sign of those guys being brought back. I think Gutekunst has kind of, drawn a demarcation line, so to speak, and wants to make this his roster. Did I give my season win-loss predictions, Derek? Not yet. That'll be out tomorrow. I'll talk about it tomorrow here on Packers Daily, so be ready. A lot of ball game left. Will they pick up John Simon? No, obviously not before the game on Sunday. Any pickup that they might make, whether it's Simon, whether it's, I've gotten a lot of questions about J-Roan Elliott. Anybody they would pick up off the street, I would tend to believe they'll wait until after week one because then an NFL veteran's salary is not guaranteed after that first week. If the player is on the roster for week one, they have to be, their salary is guaranteed. So a lot of times you will see pickups after that week one game, not just in Green Bay, that happens around the league, where general managers just want to wait, and that way they can pick a guy up, and if anything were to happen, the salary is not guaranteed. So after saying all of that, do I see them picking up Simon? No, I don't. But it's a possibility. Raji or Dez joining the Packers. Felipe, the jury is out. These fake live bids are money. What's up, Mark? Thanks, man. Thanks for checking them out. Packers record prediction, Felipe, that'll be tomorrow. Matthews and Perry calling Fat Girl there and available is the most Fat Girl thing you could say. I don't know, Omar. I mean, I've said all I can possibly say about Kyler Fat Girl at this point. Is Sitton still in Chicago? That's a good question, Matt. I don't think so. I think he's down in Miami. That's right. He left Chicago and he's with the Dolphins now. Will Wilkerson get any sacks on Sunday? I love the crystal ball questions. No. I am very interested to see what kind of effort and what kind of production they get out of Wilkerson. You didn't see much in the preseason, what limited, snaps we saw. That doesn't mean much. He's a veteran. He knows what he has to do once the games count, so to speak. But the early returns were questionable, I would say. You didn't see the dominance that you saw back in his heyday when he was wrecking offensive linemen up front. But again, it's a very limited sample size. So we'll see what happens when the lights come on. Who had the better offseason, the Packers or the Bears? Oh, that's a good question, Zachary. I think they both had promising off seasons. The Bears obviously did a lot as far as acquiring players. The Khalil Mack thing is kind of the cherry on the top, a big transaction right before the start of the season. I'll say they both picked up coordinators, in so much that they hired Nagy as their head coach, and he is going to revitalize that offense. You're going to see a lot of what Kansas City did last year, a lot of what the Eagles are probably going to do tonight. That type of offense, lots of RPOs, lots of misdirection. It's going to be night and day from what Trubisky was running last year under 5,000-year-old John Fox. And as far as the Packers, obviously they picked up Mike Pettin, and the style of defense that he plays is very different than what we've gotten accustomed to with Dom Capers. So, I think those are the major moves, and obviously the Khalil Mack thing is going to pay dividends for the Bears down the road. I don't think it factors in as much Sunday night. I do think he'll play. Question is how much? How will he be ready? How effective can he be, having only been in town for a week? Obviously it's a chess match. We'll see. As far as who had the better offseason, I'd give it a push, maybe slightly to the Bears, just simply because they revitalized their entire organization by hiring Nagy and then trading for Mack. But of course, yes, looking at it right now, you got to let it play out. Let's see how things develop 3 years down the line. I mean, Ryan Pace made that move for Mack. It could single-handedly wreck their salary cap and limit their ability to go acquire players. And then you would have to say, well, then the Packers had a better offseason. It's just there's so much involved. There's so much that has to play out. It's really hard to say at this point. Does Jamal Williams make a statement on Sunday, asks Zach. No. I don't think a statement will be made. I think he'll get the rock a lot. I think he's going to carry the football a ton. But it's hard for me to sit here and say, yeah, he's going to be a workhorse in the sense that he's going to put up a ton of yards and score some touchdowns, and he's going to be the talk of Monday morning. I think on a team with Aaron Rodgers that is built to throw the football with lots of weapons at Rodgers' disposal, the running back is almost always going to be second fiddle. That doesn't mean he's not talented. That doesn't mean he's not going to be effective. But I really have a hard time sitting here and thinking of, what it's going to be like Sunday night after the game, and we're all going to be talking about Jamal Williams. That I don't see happening. Colin says, I haven't been impressed with our safeties in preseason. Thoughts? ? Colin, I agree. I think you've seen some really substandard play, some lackluster stuff at times. I'm interested to see how Ha Clinton Dix starts his turnaround, if he can, starting week 1, starting Sunday night against the Bears. We've seen kind of the same bad angles, some bad tackling. Now, we haven't had a ton to look at, but early returns have not been good. Now, obviously, Josh Jones has been sitting out practice this week so far. Makes you think that he won't be playing on Sunday night. So that's going to be Kentrell Bryce. That's going to be Ha Clinton Dix, maybe Jermaine Whitehead, and they have to improve there. There's no doubt about it. And Brendan leads into the obvious question to me, Eric Reid. Well, I've said repeatedly throughout the summer I would have signed him, especially after I got into training camp and saw the lack of development at that position. I think they're probably their weakest spot on their entire defensive side of the ball, and Eric Reid would be an instant upgrade. And maybe, as I was talking about before, maybe they were waiting until after week 1 so they don't have to guarantee his salary. But yeah, I think they're kind of playing with fire at safety. But having said all that, you don't have to go back very far. They can live with substandard play at one of the safety spots. But if they both go downhill, then that's a hard way to live. You can't exist like that. And obviously, a lot of that depends on HaHa Clinton-Dix and his ability to bounce back and his ability to give them something more than pedestrian play at that position. We've seen it from him before. We'll start to get the answer on Sunday night. Zach says, I'm anxious to see if there will be a noticeable difference in the defense. Zach, I think there will. I don't think it'll be overt. I don't think it'll be, it's not going to be, oh my gosh, they're playing a totally different scheme. They clearly have, because in the NFL, you're 3-4, you're 4-3 principles. Almost every single defense is based in one or the other. This is clearly a 3-4 based defense. You're going to see some 4-man line, but ultimately it's rushing the passer with 4, 5, or 6, and then playing 6 or 7 different types of coverages behind it. So there's not a ton you can do, but I think the mentality will be different. I think you're going to see ball hawking from the defensive backs, especially at the corner position, and I definitely think you're going to see not a lot more, but a few more free rushers than you're used to. Now, they're not always going to get home. Obviously, Nagy, his offense is designed to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly, so I don't think you're going to see them get home a bunch, but I do think they're going to cause Trubisky to speed things up a little bit. I think Petten throws a ton at Trubisky. Matt, it's possible. I don't think he'll go all out. One, they've got to face these guys again later in the year. 2, it's early in the season. You don't want to throw the kitchen sink out there and have it all on film. But I do think they'll have definitely some unscouted stuff for him. Are you excited to see so little injuries? I feel like we've always had a ton by week 1. Brendan, I talked about that before. It's the least injured they've been coming into the season that I can recall. I know they had a pretty healthy camp back in 2000, I want to say 15. They came out of that camp pretty good, and then they got injured a ton that first month. But yeah, heading into week 1, this is as healthy as I've seen them. Will there be lots of playing time for Mercedes Lewis? Felipe, I think so. I think you'll see a lot of 2 tight end stuff. I do think you'll see him lined up and or adjusted to whatever side Mac is on. I think he'll be in there to give a little help sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. I don't think he'll be featured so much in the passing game. I do think he'll get some quality reps, a noticeable amount of snaps. Daniel says, McCarthy has to come out of the gate with a foot on the gas. We seem to come out slow year after year. It's true, Daniel. I mean, part of it is because the offense is so complicated. It takes time for people to get on the same page on the offensive side of the ball, but that's not just in Green Bay. That's league-wide. You see constantly in the NFL, teams, their defense is almost always ahead of the offense because defenses read and react, and you're not all having to kind of work in sync, so to speak. Now, that said, something that could exacerbate that this season is how little the offensive starters played together in preseason. Now, Rodgers has said many times he doesn't need the snaps. They don't need the snaps. He said it's going to be a work in progress, which it most certainly will on the offensive side. But this was as little as they've played together on offense in probably a good 5, 6, 7 years. So, yeah, I think the offense will undoubtedly have some unscouted stuff for Vic Fangio, but I don't doubt for a second that the Packers will not stub their toe out of the gate, but it's gonna take some time for them to find their way. Overreaction Monday, it's coming. Think Graham will be in the slot? Steve, I think you're gonna see him all over the place. You'll see him in line a little bit, but you'll definitely see him split out. You'll see him in the slot some. I'm interested to see how much McCarthy utilizes multiple tight ends in the huddle and then goes up tempo to try and catch the Bears, in a base defense. Because back when they had Jermichael Finley and they kept, I think it was 4 tight ends, what they would do sometimes is they would get 3 tight ends in the huddle, and they would come out and run the football on first down out of a power formation, and then they would go up tempo, and then all of a sudden they would spread those tight ends out. And they did it with really effectively. I think it was a Monday night, or it was a primetime game. It was a Monday night or a Sunday night against the Baltimore Ravens in Lambeau, where they did it a couple of drives where, you sub in those tight ends, and the defense counters with heavy personnel. So then you run it on first down, and then you go up tempo. They've got to stay in that heavy formation, that heavy personnel, and you spread them out. And all of a sudden, you've got these athletes. You've got Jimmy Graham. You've got Mercedes Lewis, who showed in preseason he can still, offer a little something in the passing game. You got Lance Kendricks, who's a classic move tight end. And who knows about Robert Tonyan, although I'd be surprised if he's up on Sunday night. But that's the kind of thing you can do with that personnel. And it's something they've done in the past that I think can be really effective against the Bears. How do you see this Sunday night game playing out? Big talk out of Chicago. William, I'll give my prediction tomorrow, but there is a lot of talk out of Chicago. Hey, man, that's what makes this rivalry great. You want the Bears to be good. You just don't want them to beat the Packers. I love it when the Packers and the Bears are both good at the same time. It has happened so rarely in my lifetime. I grew up in the 80s watching the Bears just pummel the Packers. And then in the 90s, obviously, the pendulum swung completely the other way. There have been fleeting moments where both teams were competitive, and those, to me, obviously culminating in the NFC Championship game in Chicago, with obviously the Packers won. But for the most part, it's been one team has been really dominant and the other has totally sucked. And I, as a fan of football, love it when both teams are good, but then, of course, I want the Packers to win. Of course, big talk out of Chicago. Great. Welcome it. Embrace it. Love it. Learn it. It's going to be awesome. Speaking of, in the spirit of, loving and embracing it, I'm going to be talking to a Bears fan tomorrow. So make sure you're watching my Twitter feed for that tomorrow night. Packers depth chart, preferably the secondary depth chart. You want me to list it? Man, go to Packers.com. They got it there. I hope McCarthy brings back quick slants. Seems like that has been absent in recent years. It's funny, Colin. This is a conversation that happens seemingly every season. The slants are there. Rodgers really often, a lot of the time, he chooses not to throw them. Now, they do connect every once in a while, and they do run them. Slant flat is probably the number one combination that they've run under Mike McCarthy in any year. Which, for anyone who doesn't know, one guy runs a slant from the perimeter, and the other guy runs out in the flat, whether it's a tight end or a running back. But that combination, that is probably the number one combo in their playbook. So they've run tons of slants. It's just a lot of times Rodgers turns it down. Oh, thank John. To be mentioned in the same sentence as Larry McCarron, that means a lot. Thank you very much. He's forgotten more football than I'll ever know, but that is a tremendous honor to have you mention him and put my name next to it. I want Devontae in more one-on-one jump ball situations. Go up and get it. Omar, I think we'll see some of that throughout the season. I don't know how much we'll see of it Sunday night. It's funny because there was 2-3 summers ago, they were talking about how athletic and Devontae's jumping ability, and you saw a couple of instances of it in camp. But then when they got to the regular season, Rodgers had tried it a few times, and it was never successful, and they kind of mothballed it after that. And, the one kind of, obviously there was the back shoulder throw last year in Dallas, but that's not really a jump ball scenario, and I think, the difference. I agree with you. I think he's got the athletic ability to do it. It'll be interesting to see if they start to utilize it again. Screenplays need to come back. Woo! Look at all these offensive play calling suggestions. I love it, people. Football's back, baby. Hey, I love the screen game, but, let's call a spade a spade. The screen game under McCarthy has been abysmal. It's been awful. And I don't know if it's the way they're coaching it, the players that they have, what have you. But if you go and you watch the screen as it was run under Mike Holmgren, and then you go and watch the screen as it's been run under Mike McCarthy, you don't want anything to do with that McCarthy version. You want everything to do with that Holmgren version. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what coaching points they're using. I don't know why particularly that's happening, but maybe it's a feel thing, because I tell you what, Mike Holmgren was the greatest, and I am not exaggerating, the greatest play caller I have ever witnessed in 45 years on this planet. He knew the perfect time to call a screen. I do tend to think that's some of it. I think McCarthy's a good play caller, not a great one, but I think he's a good one. But his feel for the timing on the screens, I just don't think is there. I think that's part of it. The other part of it is execution. They've struggled. So while I agree, I think I love the screen game, and I love a good screen at the right time. It just hasn't happened under McCarthy. And I don't think, 12, 13 years in, it's going to suddenly turn on. More 4 receiver sets this season. Felipe, I think some of that will depend on how the rookies come along and the young guys. I don't think you'll see a ton of that early, but I do think you'll see a lot of spread formation stuff. I think you'll see tight ends mixed in there, running backs mixed in there, and of course wide receivers. But 4 dedicated wide receivers a lot, I don't see that early on. Thoughts on Kumaro on IR? Daniel, it's clear that they plan on bringing him back. They put him on the 53 so they could put him on IR, so he was on the active 53, meaning that he can be brought back in 8 weeks. I think it's clear Rodgers loves the guy. I think he does give them something. I don't think he's a huge difference maker, but he's an additional weapon, or he can be, has the potential to be. And they clearly think they have something there, which is why they didn't just put him on IR prior to the 53, meaning his season would have been over. They wanted to get him on the 53 so they can bring him back. Who do you got, Eagles or Falcons? Omar, good question. I tell you what, I was ready to pick the Eagles until I saw the line move today. I think it's Falcons -1 now. But I'm still going to go with the Eagles simply because, I don't think there's an instance yet where the defending champ lost at home on these season openers since they started doing it all those years ago. Parker, what's up, man? What are your thoughts on Hicks' comments about the Packers O-line not being able to block? Hey, man, I love bulletin board material. It's all in fun. It's great rivalry stuff. I mean, it was hilarious. I put it up on my Twitter account, and of course, my mentions blew up. I love the passion. It doesn't mean a whole lot. These are paid professionals, and they know who's coming. They know what they got to do. And yeah, Mac's a handful. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, it's just good fun. It doesn't mean a whole lot. If you're a professional football player and you need bulletin board material to get you going, you're in the wrong line of work. Is Aaron Jones allowed to practice with the team? No, Matt, he is not. As of this week, he is not allowed to be around the team. He obviously was able to practice and participate in training camp in the preseason, but once the regular season starts, he is shunned from the building, and he'll be back after week 2. Do I still interview players and coaches during press time? No. I am in New York City. They are in Green Bay, and that's how I like it. Mac wouldn't have been traded to the Bears if Hundley doesn't chew gum. I love it. All right, everybody. That's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. They do come by fast and furious. But I'll be back tomorrow. I'll have my season prediction. I'll have my score prediction for Sunday night. And I'll be back to answer all your questions prior to the weekend. Make sure you're checking CheeseheadTV for all the latest. Thanks a lot, everyone. Talk to you tomorrow.